So my friend, as you're working in your organization, as you're working in your business, I want you to think through, who is the orator on your team? Who's the person that gets up, shares a message, that encourages the people, rallies the people? Who is that? And this is the amazing thing, that you don't have to be everything to everyone. Welcome to the Leadership Table podcast. My name is Chad Reyes, and I'm so excited for today for us to go through the 4 aspects of a great movement. Now, you're probably saying that, what are the 4 aspects of a great movement? And the reason why I'm excited to share this is, when my wife and I'll give you a little bit of the backstory. My wife and I were in Massachusetts at a conference. And then after the conference was over, we got a tour of the State House. And the gentleman that was given the tour of the State House was walking us through the State House and sharing the impact that our founding fathers had in that State House. And one of the things that they shared, and it really impacted me tremendously, the gentleman said that there are 4 aspects of every great movement, but this was probably 2% of what he shared. And it got me to think, and it got me to say, well, leaders need to hear this. Every leader needs to hear this. Because any movement, and I'm going to unpack it, but any movement, whether you look at the launching of the United States, whether you look at the civil rights movement with Martin Luther King, whether you look at any movement that you can think of, they all have these 4 aspects. And I want to unpack them with you today. You see, the first aspect is this: it's the orator. If you think of Martin Luther King, he was the voice that awakened the people. He was the voice that publicly went out and pretty much stated that discrimination was no longer going to be dealt with. We were going to deal with it, and we were going to rally the people to stand up for this injustice. You see, the orator, it carries the message with clarity, with passion, with conviction, and they don't just speak, they ignite hearts. They shift people's thinking. They rally people towards a cause that is worth following. You see, movements begin when someone stands up and speaks what others have felt. You see, that's what a great orator does. And if you think about it in a business, if you think about it in an organization, if you think about it in anything that we do in our lives, we need to have people that are the voice for what we're sharing, the voice for your business, the voice for your organization, the voice for your ministry. But when we look at those 4 things, the orator, when we look at it, the penman, we have the delivery system, and we have the financier. You see, the penman is the writer who shapes the message. You see, Martin Luther King had so many people that were writing messages that would impact and be used for a long period of time. We had the letters from the Birmingham jail. I have a dream speech. Those are penmen that wrote the speech. And then the orator communicated it. I have a dream that one day that was communicated. The penmen, they capture the essence of the movement in words, books, articles, curriculum, thought frameworks. Their role is to preserve truth and clarify strategy so the message could be multiplied. Think about it. Any great movement, any great organization, any great business, they have the orator, they have the penman, but they also have a delivery system. What is the delivery system? Delivery system is the engine that scales the impact. That's the structures that carry the message to more people, whether it's events or it's technology or it's training programs, podcasts like what we're on today, digital platforms, or strategic partnerships. You see, a great idea becomes scalable movement when delivery systems are strong. And then there's the financier. The financier is that fuel that sustains the vision, because the movement requires resources. Every business, every ministry, every movement needs resources. And movements that honor the people that put their dollars behind it, they get more dollars. Because what you appreciate appreciates. So let's unpack these four things. I'll talk about it through a couple of lenses. I'm going to talk about it through the civil rights. I'm going to talk about through the United States of America. And I'm going to talk about it through the movement of the gospel in the book of Acts. Here's the first one, the early church. If you go to Acts 1 through chapter 6, the orator was the apostle Peter at Pentecost. Peter, he publicly preached in Jerusalem. There was eyewitnesses from nations that heard him. And his sermon sparked the birth of the church. So he was the orator. He rallied the people. But then there was the penman, the apostles who recorded the scriptures. There was Matthew and Mark and Luke and John that wrote the gospel accounts. And they documented it. Luke recorded the book of Acts. Paul, wrote letters soon after that church birth. These are the penmans. They preserved the integrity of the message of the gospel. But then there was the delivery system. And like I said, I'm going to share with you through the move of the gospel. I'm going to share with you through the history of the United States and the civil rights movement. But the delivery system was the house church structure in the book of Acts. In the word, it says that believers met house to house. The teachings happened daily in the temple courts. The leaders were quickly appointed. This was a scalable, repeatable network. And then there was the financiers. These are the people who gave. In the book of Acts, in verse 4, it says about the believers sold their fields and houses to fund the works of the ministry. Barnabas was specifically named as one of those people. Funds were distributed to meet all the needs of the people. You see, generosity sustains the movement's expansion. I can give you another example. In the founding of the United States of America in the 1700s, the orators, they were Sam Adams, they were Patrick Henry. Adams rallied the colonists through speeches in Boston. It was amazing as I was sitting in Boston and I saw all the history that was there after a conference that we had done in Massachusetts. And I just thought about it and I said, wow, every great movement has those four aspects. Even the nation that you and I live in has those four aspects. Patrick Henry, he delivered the message, give me liberty or give me death. Think of that. That was the orators. But then you had the penmen, Thomas Jefferson and Madison and Hamilton. Thomas Jefferson put together the Declaration of Independence. Madison drafted the Constitution. Hamilton, Madison, and Jay wrote the Federalist Papers. So if you think about it, these documents shaped our nation's political landscape and created a structure and a framework of how we would move forward as a nation. Then there were the delivery system. Remember, four aspects: orator, penman, delivery system, and financier. The delivery system in the launching of the United States of America, these were committees of correspondence and printing presses. These were committees that were coordinated communication between the colonies. These were newspapers and pamphlets that were spread and allowed ideas to really take hold. It was one of the interesting things is just yesterday as I was preparing for this, I was listening to one of the pamphlets, Common Sense, and how it was sharing about what a government could look like and what it should look like and what is the purpose of it. It's powerful. Go back and read it. Go back and watch it. It's about 50 pages. But I'll tell you, you'll see that those were the delivery systems, and they served as the backbone to mobilize support for the launch of the United States of America from British control. Powerful stuff. And then we go to the financiers. These are the merchants and the patriots and all the international support because they wanted to see the United States succeed. These are the wealthy, merchants that were funding the meetings and the supplies and the local militias, and then obviously France later, financed the war efforts with loans and military aid. See, these resources, it made the revolution possible. It made the launching of the United States of America possible. So if you think about it, right, every great movement has these four aspects. Let's look at the civil rights movement with Martin Luther King. We all know that Martin Luther King was known as one of the greatest orators of all time. His speech, I Have a Dream, the mountaintop speech, it basically galvanized people in the United States. His preaching framed the movement's authority. Dr. Martin Luther King was the orator, but within that, he had the Penman, he had James Farmer, he had Bayard Rustin, and some others. King's letter from the Birmingham jail shaped just a theological and an ethical framework for how we as a nation should move forward. James Farmer, he drafted the nonviolent strategy of how we would move this forward. The reason why I'm bringing all this up is I want you to think about it in your business. How do these things shape what you're doing? The delivery system for the civil rights movement, it was these churches, the black churches served as organizational hubs throughout the United States. We had the National Association of Advanced Colored People, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. There were trained volunteers that marched and they were voter registration drives. These were all delivery systems that allowed a local movement to scale to a national impact. Here's the last. Financiers. The churches took up offerings to support bail for anyone that would get arrested. There was transportation and operations all around it because of the financiers. There were families that donated meals and housing and resources. And basically the financial component, it kept the movement going. The world that we live in today is different because you had movements that use these four aspects. So my friend, as you're working in your organization, as you're working in your business, I want you to think through, who is the orator on your team? Who's the person that gets up, shares a message, that encourages the people, rallies the people? Who is that? And this is the amazing thing, that you don't have to be everything to everyone. If you're that person, then great. Then you take that role of orator. But then you have a person who's the penman, the person who writes out the speeches. I think about it with my friend John Maxwell. John is the orator. John also writes, and he's part of the penman, but he has a team of people that are penmans with him and put stuff together and put curriculum together that John believes in and then communicates the message. Who on your team is the penman? Who's the person who really refines the message, puts it in a way that will fall on people correctly? An orator, it doesn't matter if you're an orator if you don't have a good penman. And if you have a good penman and you don't have a good orator, it won't matter. But when you have a penman and an orator, you divide the work and you multiply the impact. Let's think of delivery systems when it comes to business. What delivery systems do you need? Do you need a podcast? What we're doing here is a delivery system to reach a message to other people, that they can share this message with other people. Do you need a podcast for your organization? Maybe you need a book. Maybe a book needs to be written that can be used as part of the delivery system. One of the things that we've done is we've created this whole leadership table movement, right? There's the podcast, but then there's also the leadership tables where people sit around the table, they learn good leadership principles, and then they're able to multiply that through their networks. And we just want to resource them. We want them to be more effective leaders to make a difference in other people's lives. What is your delivery system? And then financier. Who is the financier? Are you personally the financier? Do you have investors? Do you need to raise debt? Do you need to get grants? What is the greatest way for you to bring financiers into your world to advance the mission, the cause, the vision for what you're doing? You see, I've found that most people are good at some things, but very few people are good at all things. And I just think that as you're moving forward, as you're building an organization, and as you can identify those 4 aspects, it'll help you understand what you're doing well, areas that you need improvement. I know that often being in leadership can be overwhelming. One of the reasons why I like putting frameworks together is because frameworks help people to verbalize what they've been feeling. That's the reason why these 4 aspects of any great movement is very valuable, because now you know who's my orator, who's that person that's going to get up and share the message, who's the penman, what delivery systems are we going to use. So I'll just share with you about our leadership table movement. Our leadership table movement is designed just on that. I'm the orator, I'm the voice behind the movement. But then we have the penman, we have my wife who drafts curriculum and drafts verbiage that makes an impact in people's lives. And I'd encourage you to check out the leadership table movement. Send an email to patrick@lionsprideleadership.com, because it's a complimentary movement. It's designed to resource business organizations, churches, school systems to raise up leaders. I really believe that my call and the purpose of why God put me on this earth and my wife is to empower generations of leaders like you. Some in the school system, some in the marketplace, some within the church. But I'll tell you this, I'm sure you're going to have a delivery system that you're going to use in your ministry or in your business. What is it? I'd love for you to drop a comment and just tell us what delivery system you're using, because you want to know what? Your comment is going to help someone else that comments, and all of a sudden now you guys will be learning from one another. It's so powerful. And then the financier. Now, I'll ask you this. Growth requires a strategy. What is your strategy to finance your growth? Is it to use cash flow to grow your organization? There's a lot of organizations that have done that. They don't see as much growth in the earlier part of their career, in the earlier part of the business, but they see more growth as time goes on, as the cash flow gets bigger and bigger. Or are you going to use loans? Are you going to have grants? Are you going to have a mixture of loans, grants, cash flow? Or are you going to ask for investors to join? You see, understanding your financiers and how you're going to finance your growth strategy is key. Too many people, they just show up every day and don't think through these things. And I want to encourage you that write these 4 things out. Who's the orator in your organization? Who's the penman? What delivery systems do you use? And then what is your finance strategy, your growth strategy for financier? I think when you do that, you're going to have tremendous growth in this upcoming 12 to 24 months. And this is the thing I always talk about. You can't refine something that you haven't defined. So now that we've defined that those are the 4 aspects of every great movement, now you could start refining it. That's the cool part. You could start saying, okay, who's the orator? How do I refine them? How do they get better? Who's the penman? How do we refine them? How do they get better? And etc. But too many people haven't defined them. And until you define it, it will just seem like a dream. But I'll tell you this, you, my friend, are going to do something great with your organization and your leadership. And I would just block out time. I often talk about date, time, location, accountability partner. In my book, Awaken Your Potential, the first chapter, we talk about good intentions versus being intentionally good. And the difference between intentionally good is date, time, location, and accountability partner. So I want to encourage you right now is, what date are you going to work on these 4 aspects? What time are you going to do it? What location? Where are you going to do it? From your home office? Are you going to do it in your office, at work? And then who's your accountability partner? And this is the cool thing. When you go public, you automatically have accountability. I know too many leaders, they don't want to go public with anything, because if they go public, that means they have to be now accountable. What I want to encourage you to do is go public with it. Go public, and what it'll do is it's going to bring accountability. And ask someone, say, hey, I want you to come alongside me, and I want you to be my accountability partner. And I think you're going to see something tremendous happen. But just in recapping, choose the Orator, choose the Penman. And I really would love for you as a leader to define all the different types of delivery systems. Many years ago, Danielle and I had a coach, and he called them magnifiers and multipliers. It's so interesting. These are magnifiers and multipliers. These are things that you do that magnify your message, and then these are things you do that multiply your message. Choose magnifiers and multipliers that are part of your delivery system, and watch what's going to happen. Hey, thank you for being on the Leadership Table podcast. I am so excited that you allowed me into your life. I want to challenge you to find those people, refine your 4 aspects, and watch what happens. Watch what's going to happen to your ministry, your business, your movement. And I want to thank you for allowing me in, just to share my heart with you. And hopefully you found so much value. And by the way, share it with others. Just take the message and say, hey, you need to hear this. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, that's the greatest way that we make a difference in people's lives, is when we share a message that impacted us and we share it with someone else. Thank you, my friend, for being on the journey. You were part of the Leadership Table podcast today, and what we do is we love having mature conversations. I say this often. Great leaders have mature conversations, and that's what we had today. So thank you for being on the journey with me. Until next time, be well. You're listening to the Leadership Table. I am so excited that you've joined us. Hey, listen, you want to join us in future episodes where we're going to invite some of our greatest friends, some of the greatest leaders we know, to share all about their leadership journeys and just add tremendous value to you and your teams. Hey, listen, drop a comment below on your biggest takeaway, what is impacting you the most. Like it. Share it with those people that you know need to hear this message. And subscribe, and hey, listen, turn on the notifications. I just want to thank you, because you are making a difference. As you help us, we help you, and we just divide the work and multiply the impact. My friend, thank you for joining us on the Leadership Table.